So I love that idea, because when people show up and they say, well, listen, I understand that I have a health condition. I understand that it's taken me 10 years of being unhappy, 10 years of living in stress, 10 years of living in fear. That's actually begin to signal or select and instruct the gene that creates the disease. Well, it may take me some time then to unlearn that process, to break that conditioning process. So there's a practical understanding now. But something amazing has happened. I mean, we've spent over 10 years doing very advanced scientific studies. We've done over 8,500 brain scans. We've measured so many thousands of hearts, because if you're going to create a new future, it requires a clear intention and elevated emotion. Well, let's train our people how to create really, really high-level brain coherence and really, really, really self-regulating heart coherence. Why? Because if you're going to believe in that future that you're creating with all of your heart, it better be opened and activated, and you better know how to do that, and you better understand the science of what happens. We've measured gene regulation, 7,500 different gene regulations. We know you can change your gene expression in 4 days. We've measured it. You're not doomed by your genes. You're your own genetic engineer. That you can lengthen your life. And we've seen telomeres actually lengthen 60 days of meditation. That you add days to your life. You're changing your genetic future. That you can strengthen your immune system by thought alone. That's the evidence from the scientific perspective, and people love the evidence because they start to see that's possible. You're not going to find that in a pharmaceutical commercial. You're not going to find that out there in the world. You got to really be hungry and look for it. So then that sets the stage for the person to come and want to have that experience. There may not be so quick to say, hey, I want to heal my body right away. They may say, I need to get my brain and heart coherent first. And I got to begin to put my effort into learning how to do this, like learning any skill. Then you have testimony, which is people with stage 4 cancers, people that are blind, that are seeing, people that are deaf, that are hearing, people with tumors on their thyroid, people with Parkinson's disease, with myasthenia gravis, with MS, with rare genetic disorders that medical science had no solution for, that struggled with all the conventional approaches and got absolutely nowhere, and then started doing this work, and now they're standing on the stage in front of 1,000 people and saying, yeah, I had stage 4 cancer. I did all the treatments, I did the chemotherapy, I've been getting worse. I stopped doing everything and I started doing this work, and it took me 6 weeks. I just came from my doctor, and there's no evidence of cancer. There's no, on the scans, on the blood tests, my doctors want to know what I'm doing. And the patient says, well, I'm down-regulating genes for disease and I'm up-regulating genes for health. Doctors are scratching their heads saying, what do you mean? So now you have evidence in testimony, and evidence is the loudest voice. So just like a disease spreads amongst the community, and alters, I think that health and wellness can be as infectious as disease. And so the person in the audience who's looking at the person with stage 4 cancer, and the person's telling their story, and it's not glamorous, and it's not a Hollywood version. This is real. They lost everything. They went bankrupt. They lost their friends. They lost certain things in their life, but they were persistent. And that person is the example of truth, and it's undeniable. Or the person who had a stroke and is blind. The doctor said your vision's going to get worse, and she has a transcendental moment and she can see again. Like, that doesn't happen a year later after you've had a stroke. And then, people having all of these transcendental changes that are going on. I think now that what's happening is I'm more surprised at this point than anybody, because I never thought how far this could go, right? So I'm super happy. I'm overjoyed with what's taking place, and I think we've kind of pierced that 4-minute mile. Like, once you break that veneer, right, in consciousness, then other people can do it. And I think there's strong footprints in consciousness in the quantum field. I think there's evidence in 3-dimensional reality, and it's an important time for us to wake up to our own personal abilities.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And thank you for sharing that. It's incredible, some of the work that you've done and the people's lives that have been transformed. And what I want to get into now is that really practical aspect of like breaking that pattern, right? Because that's where most of us are. We have that negative self-talk. We have the victim mindset. We have the I'm busy, I've got too much going on, I'm overwhelmed, I'm experiencing anxiety, it's that person at work, it's my partner. Like we have that. That's reality of where we are today.
Yeah.
How do we break that pattern in a way that actually makes a difference and is easy enough as a starting point?
Yeah, it's been said that you should meditate for 20 minutes a day. Unless you're really busy, then you should meditate for an hour a day.
Yeah, I love that. That's why, by the way, that's why I meditate for 2 hours a day.
Yeah. So look, I mean, information is what opens that door. I mean, if you think that your thoughts have something to do with your future, just from a theoretical standpoint, that your thoughts create your destiny, and you think 60 to 70,000 thoughts in one day, and 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts as the day before, well, then your life isn't going to change very much as long as you're thinking the same way. And those same thoughts lead to the same choices. The same choices lead to the same behaviors. The same behaviors create the exact same experiences, and we anticipate the same feelings or emotions from those experiences, and those emotions are the payoff that drive our very same thoughts. Well, our biology, our neurocircuitry, our neurochemistry, our hormones, and even our gene expression will be equal to how we think, how we act, and how we feel. And how we think, how we act, and how we feel is called our personality. And our personality creates our personal reality. That's it. So the present personality who's listening to this show has created the present personal reality called their life. So if you can latch on to this idea, if you want to create a new life, a new personal reality, you got to change your personality, which means you better start thinking about what you've been thinking about and changing it. You begin to become conscious of your unconscious actions or habits or behaviors and modify them. And then we have to begin to look at the emotions that we live by every single day that keep us connected to the past and decide, do these emotions belong in our future? So most people are trying to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. You literally have to become someone else. So the principle in neuroscience says that nerve cells that fire together wire together. You keep thinking the same way, making the same choices, demonstrating the same habits, creating the same experiences that stamp the same networks of neurons into the same patterns, all for the familiar feeling called you. And you do that for 10 years on end, you're going to begin to hardwire certain patterns in your brain that becomes your identity. And by the time we're 35 years old, it kind of becomes fixed, right? And psychology used to say that you can't change that, but we now know that you can. So then that kind of box in the brain, that is the habit of ourselves. We're 95% of the time running a series of programs. So then sitting and doing the work, we have to become disentangled from those programs. And so the moment you decide to do something differently or make a new choice, what most people don't want to face is that discomfort. And that discomfort, that uncertainty, that lack of predictability, that unknown is what people are afraid of, because they'd rather live in guilt. At least they can predict who they're going to be than take a chance in possibility. So when a person begins to understand this and you say, well, how long have you been this way? And they say, I've been like this for 35 years. And you say, why 35 years? Because 35 years ago, I had this one event. Well, the stronger the emotion you feel from the reaction from that event, the more altered you feel inside of you, the more the brain narrows its focus and freezes the image and takes a snapshot. And that's called a memory, right? So then forget the memory. Just overcome the emotion, because it's the emotion that keeps you anchored to the past. So that sounds really good theoretically, but when you step out into that unknown, into that void, the body really is in a habit. And when a habit is when the body becomes the mind. Or if you're thinking about that past event and it's producing an emotion, well, you need an image and a feeling to start the conditioning process. So the body's either conditioned into the familiar past or it's hardwired in the predictable future, because it wakes up every single day and runs through the same series of routine actions.